The new Polestar 3 is a large, luxurious, and sporty electric SUV, but it is also a lot of money. The car we have spec'd here, a long-range dual motor without the performance pack, is 90,000 euros, and in other markets it may be even more expensive. But I think the car we have today is also very well priced compared to new competition like the Audi Q6 e-tron and Porsche Macan EV. So today's big question is, should you go out and spend your 100,000 euros or dollars on this instead of those other electric cars? Do you guys want to see me test the Polestar 3, the Polestar 4, Volvo EX90, Porsche Macan, and all the other new electric cars that have been launched this winter, but summer testing? You guys want to know the results on the motorway when the temperature is warm, not cold like it is now, and it's only going to get colder and colder. Well, I'm trying to go to a warmer place this winter to do that type of testing, either Spain or California, and for that I have started a GoFundMe so you guys can support this project. And so far, after a few weeks, we've already collected more than 20% of the funds needed. So yeah, we're really close, and the plan is to go sometime in January or February. I have to arrange all of these cars, like the Volvo EX90 won't be available before January, and that's the car I really want to test. So if you want to support this trip, go to the link down below. There's a GoFundMe. Thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate it. Small or big contributions are all super awesome. Subjectivity does play a role when it comes to looks, but there is more than half a century of research that shows that most of what we are attracted to is objective. Sure, we all have our own preferences, but I think most of us would agree that Ana de Armas is stunning. Or maybe you prefer Lea Seydoux. Either way, they are both gorgeous, and I don't think there's a single person in the world who would call them average, or worse, ugly. Do you prefer a black Polestar 3 or maybe a white one? 20-inch aero wheels or 22-inch performance wheels? Either way, especially in person, I think the Polestar 3 is stunning, and I think most of you, not all, but most, would probably agree. The door handles on the exterior of this Polestar 3 are in the same fashion as with the Porsche Taycan, but I like the feel and the action of these better. With the Taycan, you kind of feel like sometimes the door handle is going to come back and cut off your fingers. This feels very secure and also feels very mechanical. The travel distance between touching it and opening it is satisfactory, very small distance. It's just really nice to use. And also, the door closing sound is really solid. It's not like Mercedes G-Wagon level, but I'd say it's like 80% there. It is so nice. And also this car has soft close doors, which is a really nice touch. Yes, the interior of the Polestar 3. So this is the direction we've seen Polestar go in the past few years. More minimalistic, simplistic, and elegant. It's not the most interesting, but I think what Polestar do very well with simple designs, unlike Tesla, it's not boring. There are still many layers of materials and interesting details to just make the cabin feel special, and it does feel special in here, and luxurious. So on top of the dashboard you have this beautiful fabric trim which is stitched, and then you have this interesting air vent, and then you have this piece of wood that goes the whole width of the cabin. This dark open pore wood, which is surrounded by this beautiful chrome trim, and then you have this wetsuit type of material we first saw with the Polestar 2, covering the lower part of the dash and the lower parts of the doors and the center console, and also the lower part here of the center console. Everything just feels high quality. There's nowhere you're going to touch here which has hard touch plastics. It's all of high quality. And then you have the door here, which also is very beautiful and tastefully done. Again, simple design, simple lines, but stitched fabric on top. And then you have a different fabric that covers the length, that also covers the mid-range speaker here. And then you have this beautiful LED trim, which has the Bowers & Wilkins name, because this car has the upgraded Bowers & Wilkins sound system, which we're going to talk about more in the tech part of this video. But as a crown jewel on the dashboard, you have the beautiful Nautilus domed tweeter by Bowers & Wilkins in this beautiful housing. It just gives this interior a sense of occasion that is hard to find in a lot of other cars. It's just a beautiful interior with nice materials. This also has the upgraded Napa leather interior, which is in this Jupiter color, and the leather is sourced through welfare means, meaning that it should be less harmful to the animals, which is a nice touch. But you can also get this in a all vegan interior if you want. So there are not a lot of buttons there. Again, we're going to get back to that in the tech part of the video, but I really like the fact there is a volume knob. It just feels high quality. You can also jog it right to left to change tracks. What I don't like about this interior, there aren't many things. Buttons on the steering wheel, we're going to get back to that in the tech part, but basically non-functional. There are like 4 functions with these buttons, though there are like 12 buttons, which is really, really weird. And then this glossy black plastic trim here. Why? The Volvo EX90, which is closely related to this car, doesn't have black glossy trim. It looks just nasty already. This car's done like 3,000 kilometers. It's like a few weeks old. So yeah, I don't like that either. Wireless phone charger really doesn't work with a case on your phone. But what I really like, and what I didn't think I would like, especially spending time in the Polestar 4, is this steering wheel, where that steering wheel felt like mushy. This feels solid and tight and feels very close to my private vehicle, which is a Porsche Taycan Cross Turismo, and that is high praise. The way the leather wraps, the tolerances, the stitching, it just feels like a high quality precision vehicle, which is reflected in the steering feel, which we're going to talk about later. Overall, very roomy. I had a friend of mine who's like 6'3", riding with me earlier today. He got to test drive it, and in the passenger seat, he said you couldn't, put the seat down enough. He felt like he was, sitting very high. Though headroom is massive, you feel like you're looking into this part of the roof. But in the driver's seat, I can get the seat low enough, and he could also get the seat low enough. Again, the rear doors, really nice feel when you open the door handle. And also, that's such a solid door closing sound. And then we also have soft close. So the rear cabin of the Polestar 3 is a really nice place. And I just spent a week in the Polestar 4, which also has a really nice rear cabin. But I think I prefer this. You're sitting very low, maybe lower than I would prefer, but you still have a lot of room for your feet under the front seat. This seat is set to my driving position. I like to sit low, but I'm not sitting on the ground here. And I'm about 5'10", 5'11", around 180 centimeters. And I have plenty of room. Look at that knee room, guys. And also this backing here, there's such nice attention to details, the quality of the materials, even down low on the B-pillar. On my Porsche, which is a beautiful car with a beautiful interior, even this is hard touch plastics. You have to option that as an expensive option if you don't want it in hard plastic trim. These rear seats are comfortable. Maybe the seat cushion is a little bit short and you're sitting closer to the floor, but the floor is completely flat. The cabin is wide. In the middle here, even the middle seat is comfortable, and you have tons of headroom. Look at that, guys. Look at that, guys. Of course, heated rear seats. And, okay, this has to be the nicest rear armrest I've seen in any car. My God, look at the detail in the stitching. Perforated leather. And then you have this beautiful chrome cup holder. My God, is that nice. I did not expect that. Wow. Yeah, I wouldn't mind spending a lot of time in the rear of this car. It's superb. This is just going to be a quick rundown, walk through some of the tech, especially what doesn't work and what I don't like. So by no means is this an extensive review on the tech. And I don't have time to do that because this car is actually going back to Polestar in like 20 minutes. So here we go. So we now have one stock that controls your wiper functions, your lights in the Polestar 3, like we have with the Polestar 4, that with the Polestar 2 was done on two stocks. So less functionality, and not the worst, but not my favorite. And unlike the Polestar 4, we actually have physical buttons, which is really, really nice. But these buttons don't do anything. So put the car into drive. And yeah, this is your gear selector now, like with the Polestar 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 buttons here that doesn't do anything. This is the same steering wheel setup we saw with the Volvo EX30. And if I remember quickly, right, it has a lot of functions. This has the new version where there are annotations there, which is a welcome thing. But you basically have functions here for your adaptive cruise control to increase and decrease the speed. You activate it by pulling this all the way down, like with the Tesla, and then you can increase and decrease. There's no distance now. That's going to come in a future update, and there's no resume. So this doesn't do anything other than increase and decrease the speed. And then on the right side, you have no functions there, so you have no voice commands. You have no volume now, skipping forwards or backwards. You have, you have voice command, and then you have just changing the screen here. And there are no trip computer settings here either. So it's just really lacking when it comes to functionality. So that's the steering wheel. Far from being finished, but I'm pretty sure they're gonna give us more functionality, at least the functionality we have with the EX30 in a future update. And then we have the central screen, 14.1 inches, so a little bit smaller than what we saw with the Polestar 4. And also it's in a different orientation. This is in portrait, while in the Polestar 4 it is in landscape. After been using the Polestar 4 for 1.5 weeks and this for a few days, I prefer the Polestar 4's setup. Just the menus, the way it is laid out. This looks similar, but it is a completely different setup, different infotainment system. And I think if I were to rank like functionality, I'd go Polestar 4, Polestar 2, and then this last, because there's so many things that are just, you know, cumbersome to use. So going to, for example, here, every time you want to change something with your drive, like their power delivery, maybe you want to lighten up or stiffen up the suspension, maybe you want to turn on and off ESC Sport. From the home menu, you have to go in 1, 2, and then 3. And every time you get in and out of the car, this also always resets to performance, no, to range. Also assistance systems, again, this car is far from being finished, so we're probably going to get more shortcuts. You know, here you have your one-pedal drive on and off, but hopefully we're going to be able to customize these, because these are nice to have, like your trip computer here, which you should have, you know, a view of the trip computer up here, which you have with the Polestar 2 and the 4, but here you don't have it. Pretty sure that's going to come in a future update. Have been some glitches. For example, my head-up display is now on. I can show you guys that the head-up display is on. You guys see that very faintly. But if we go in here, I'm pretty sure it's off. So driver adjustments, head-up display, and it's off. So that resets to being on every time, even though it's off. And also when I picked up this car, it wouldn't let me adjust any of the mirrors or the steering wheel. That is done via here. So Polestar actually had to send out the technician, like right after I picked up the car, to reset the ECU. So yeah, a few bugs here and there, mostly annoying, nothing like with the Polestar 4, like with the advanced driver assistance systems where the car was dangerous and just terrible to use. There have been a few things here, like I turn off lane departure, or I turn off here in assistance systems. For example, distraction alert is turned off, but if you're on your phone or if you fiddle with the screen here, or if you look too long at some of the screens, it will tell you to pay attention. Like, how is that off when it's prompting you to pay attention? It's not nearly as terrible as with the Polestar 4, but if you look at the screen too much here, like if you want to change the song, you go into your Spotify and you fiddle here, it will tell you not to look at the screen. And then if you're on Pilot Assist, it will actually cancel the auto steer functionality after prompting you several times, which is annoying. But again, it's not dangerous. It's not a deal breaker. It's just annoying. Most of the functions, most of the things work here nicely, but there's just tuning that has to be done. And also lane keeping aid. If the car senses you're going over the center line, it tugs you in the line. Isn't that what lane keeping aid is for? I know Volvo has something called road leave mitigation, but it doesn't say that. And you can even turn those systems off in a Volvo. I haven't found anywhere to turn those systems off. So the overall software experience is buggy. It's far from being finished. There are a lot of functions that are lacking and that aren't there. But the big takeaway is that it works. It really works. And the Bowers & Wilkins sound system in this car, which I'm going to do a separate review on, is amazing. It is amazing. And if you're looking at a car like this, that is a mandatory, I think it's like in the Plus package. So it is expensive, but you're getting a lot of niceties. For me, it's mandatory because once you dial it in, it is probably one of the best sound systems out there. But curiously enough, I had my friend riding with me who is like kind of an audio geek. Like he's taught me a lot of things about audio, and he's been an audio geek for his whole life. He has an insane setup at his house and is really into like audio. And we were looking at the specs of this and the Volvo XC90. And I think the XC90, if you look at the specs alone, explains why I wasn't blown away by the sound system in this car as I have been with the Volvo XC90s. It is great, the sound system. It's like 9.5 out of 10, but I think the XC90s is actually better. So I'm going to talk about that more in my review of the Bowers & Wilkins sound system. So if you don't want to miss out on that, hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Okay, let's take this car out on the road and I'm going to tell you what it is like to drive. So gear selector behind the steering wheel here. Seats are maybe the best seats in any car. I mean, I love the seats in my private vehicle, which is the 18-way sports seats in the Porsche Taycan Cross Turismo. But these seats are basically what we've had in the XC90 and the S90s and the S60s for years. I've had two XC90s. In between those two cars, I've probably done like 30,000 kilometers when I had those cars. And these seats, I think they're even firmer than those seats, and I like it. They're so supportive. They have massage, they have cooling, they have heating, they're perforated. I love the color theme. They're just great. The only thing that is not the best is the way you control, because there's like one wheel, you have to push it in, and there's a pop-up menu, and it's a little bit confusing. There's a little bit of a learning curve, but I think it's fine. But what's curious is that the thigh support, lengthwise, in the Volvos have been electrically operated. Here's manually. And I actually don't mind that, like because of the seat controls, it would probably be more cumbersome. The Porsche fixes this with like 18 gazillion buttons on the side, and it's just really nice to use. So this car is on 20-inch winter tires, Michelin X-Ice Snow SUV winter tires, and that in combination with this having the Bowers & Wilkins sound system, which also has active noise cancellation, and just the double pane of the windows, front and back, the isolation of the cabin, the battery pack being in the floor, also isolating even more, makes this one of the quietest driving experiences of any car. And now it defaulted back into range mode. Like, I want to drive the drivetrain in performance, because in range, it's fine. It goes to front wheel drive, it decouples the rear motor for better efficiency, but in normal day driving, I just love the response of the performance. That's why you drive an electric car, right? Because you want the response and the performance. So ride-wise, quietness, this is one of the quietest cars I've driven in a long time. It is significantly quieter than the Audi Q6 e-tron and quieter than the Porsche Macan EV. Though I haven't driven the Porsche Macan EV on Norwegian roads, I've driven it on several occasions in Germany, and I have a press car next week. So if you're not sure about my judgment on that, I'm pretty sure about that. You can wait until next week to those videos. But yeah, this is very, very quiet, and even at speed, road noise is at a minimum, but there is a little bit of wind noise off these beautiful frameless wing mirrors. So like for this type of vehicle in this class, there's no complaining. This is super, super quiet. And then you have the comfort level. So this car is on 4-corner air suspension, which I think is standard with this car. On the entry-level version with rear-wheel drive, I think that is an option. And again, going into these drive modes, pressing so many menus, it's not my favorite. I think in the Polestar 2, they managed this a lot better. So there is a lot of room for improvement. But the car's now in standard suspension feel, and we also have the steering in its middle setting. Talk about the steering later. but the ride comfort in standard is so good. It is not like super wafty or boat-like like within a Volvo or like a Mercedes EQS SUV, but I like it. There is enough compliance that it is super comfortable, but there's just so good body and suspension control. Like, you don't feel the suspension moving at all. The suspension is so tight on this car, but you just don't feel the bumps either. This is one of the best riding cars I've driven in a long time, and it really reminds me of the way Porsche tune their cars. Compliant, comfortable, but not super soft, with a ton of control. Because going into this corner here, like we're in the softest setting on winter tires, and there's barely any lean, the way the body moves around, it is so well controlled. Roger Wahlgren and Joachim Rydholm, which headed the team at the chassis engineering of this car, are geniuses. I think they're one of the most talented people in the car business, because this is one of the best driving cars, especially electric cars, period. It is so good. The steering tuning in this car, the weighting isn't as heavy as in a Porsche, but the delicacy is so much better. There's so much more texture and feel in this steering. Off center, I still think Porsches are a little bit better, a little bit more natural feeling. But like once you weight up the wheels, you don't need heavy steering when there is texture, because it just communicates beautifully. I prefer the steering in this car to my Porsche Taycan. I prefer it to the newest Taycan, the facelifted version, Turbo S, I drove in Germany a month back, which has the active suspension and rear wheel steer. That just felt amazing. This feels as good as that, but with more feel and more texture. Applause Roger, applause Joachim. The way this car drives is it's so good. And then you can put the car into, let's go into, again, like the interface here is kind of shit, but put the steering, the suspension into firm. You can put the steering into, now there, pay attention to driving. I'm fiddling with the menu, because if you didn't bury everything in a menu, I would be paying more attention. Like, so that's annoying. Yes, I am paying attention, come on. So it's just like annoying when you fiddle here, but with the Polestar 4, I couldn't even talk to camera. It was so terrible. But now with everything in its, stiffest setting, heaviest weighting of the steering, this car on a back road, it is so impressive. And that, along with the tuning of the throttle, the one pedal drive, the throttle calibration, the throttle tip-in, and just the weight of all the controls, is just a very satisfactory car to drive. Again, I'm going to reference Porsche, because in my opinion, this is where Porsche are at their best. And why was one pedal drive not in its most aggressive setting? That's strange. So going here, roundabout, let's see. And also, torque vectoring rear differential. This car will actually let you slide, and it hooks up the rear because of that torque vectoring rear differential. You can put the car into there we go, Sport ESC. And this is as fun and as nice to drive as a Porsche Taycan with the optional torque vectoring rear differential, active steer, and all of those things. With a Porsche, you have to take off a lot of boxes, and that's why I think this is such great value, because I'm pretty sure the Macan I'm going to drive next week has a lot of these options, but it's going to be significantly more expensive than this car. So the package you're getting here, the quietness, the comfort, the performance, I haven't even talked about that. This has dual electric motors, 489 horsepower, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour, 5.0 seconds. It's plenty enough. Top speed over 200 kilometers an hour. It feels fast, it feels punchy. Granted, you have it in performance mode. It's just a really nicely driving car. At this price point, this is impressive, and I think it drives better than anything else you can buy at $100,000 or euros. Okay, so the Polestar 3 is far from being perfect, mostly because of the software not being finished, in my opinion. There's still a way to go before this car is complete when it comes to the software, infotainment experience, and also some of the driver assistance systems. But unlike the Polestar 4 I tested last week, where those things were so unfinished, it made the car dangerous and terrible to drive. With this car, it's mostly just annoying, and sometimes it's a little bit frustrating. But for me, the hard product here, the actual car, the way it drives, the performance, the comfort, the quietness, the quality of the interior, the steering feel, the drivetrain, the suspension, the packaging, the room, the exterior styling, the price point, the range. It's so good that for me, I would choose this car the way it is now instead of the Audi Q6 e-tron and the Porsche Macan EV. And this is the worst iteration of this car. It's only going to get better and better. But maybe we'll be able to find it out definitely next week when I'm going to try to put this in a direct comparison to the Q6 e-tron and Porsche Macan EV. So that's the video I'm trying to put together. If you want to see that, leave a comment, leave a thumbs up down below, and subscribe to the channel. So guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please drop me a thumbs up down below, and for more car content, as always, please subscribe. See you guys later. Goodbye.